Également pour Luxembourg, le 5 contre Scott Tiltjes. And finally,
the crowd's ready, everyone's ready. This is the final race of this UCI Cyclocross World Championships. Well, this crowd has been winding itself up for the last 3 hours, getting itself ready to enjoy a great race and a great atmosphere. It's been snowing. It's still muddy. Simon's been out and about enjoying the atmosphere. I'm not necessarily sure you've been enjoying the course for the last 3 hours.
No, as you can see, it's not the sort of thing you want to walk around, really.
Yeah.
No, we had a couple of hours of light snow. It hasn't really done an awful lot. It's added a little bit of moisture to the top of the mud that we can see. But generally, it's exactly the same as we saw this morning. No change. It's right now. It's between 1 and 2 degrees centigrade. It's cold. It's cold. It's a very cold wind as well. The wind's got up. It's going to be a hard afternoon.
It feels like it's about -4, -5, something like that. It's really cold. We've got heating on in the commentary box, which is a little bit lucky. But I don't know about you, Simon. My feet are freezing and everyone else is saying the same. It's so cold here.
It is, and the spectators, they're trying to get whatever 20,000 spectators into 2 beer tents. It's been a bit rammed in there, but everyone's keeping warm. The beer's been flowing.
Yeah, the Europop has been played since 8:45 this morning. It's got louder and louder and louder. And the riders are on the start line. We're about 2.5 minutes from the race start as we count through there on the left-hand side the 57 riders who will take to the race start this afternoon to decide who is going to be the world champion. Wout van Aert, of course, has won it for the last 2 years. Mathieu van der Poel, the winner in 2015. Before that was Stybar and Niels Albert. Lars Boom also figured in 2008. 2 minutes now until the race start. The red lights are on. The commissaires are there and getting ready for this final race. We've had magnificent racing so far. First on the grid, Michael van Turenhout, under-23 world champion in Tabor. Alongside him, Lars van der Haar, looking a little bit ill, twice an under-23 world champion. Wout van Aert, it's not been his season, but the world champion is here to defend his title. We'll see whether he does manage to put Van der Poel under pressure. Laurens Sweeck, 6th last year, and he's had some podium finishes this season. Corne van Kessel, 5th last season, and alongside him, the man that everyone's looking at, the pre-race favourite, Mathieu van der Poel. As he gets ready for action, all the preparation now is done. Alongside him is Toenaerts, another rider who's had some good performances this season. Quinten Hermans, the next rider on the grid, bronze medalist in 2016 as an under-23 rider. And so the riders now are on the grid. And we're 30 seconds until we get this race underway. If you'd like to send messages during the race, at UCI_CX. About an hour of racing to decide who is the world champion. Underway then. The 57 riders go blasting off the start line. Very fast start from Lars van der Haar, who's always a good starter. Wout van Aert right on his wheel, and Lars looking around to see where Mathieu van der Poel was as he saw Wout van Aert was right on his wheel. Through the right-hander, Simon. A great start by Lars van der Haar.
Yeah, good. We saw him start like that the last couple of seasons, he's like a little terrier off the start, all clean down here, no issues on the start, good to see. So this first half lap, let's see who ends up where. Looks like Laurens Sweeck, maybe.
Very fast start. Lars van der second, Wout van Aert third, Corne van Kessler's up there. Stephen Hyde has got a spectacular start for the United States of America. National champion, he's up there already in about 5th place.
Tim Merlier leading.
Yep, Tim Merlier leads. Lars van der, Wout van Aert, Michael van Turnhout, Stephen Hyde. Behind him is Laurens Sweeck. Behind him, Mathieu van der Poel. Behind him is Steve Chanel, the new French champion. Very good start by Tim Merlier.
Merlier's been good this last few weeks. Over Christmas, he was really good. He's definitely a rider that's been on the up in the last month or so. One of the newer names in the Belgian team, but definitely deserves his place on the squad, and he's taken this out.
Yeah, he was 4th in Nome. He was 6th in Hoogerheide, as he opens up a little bit of an advantage and goes scooting round that corner. Looks to me like it's dried a little bit on that corner as Wout manages to ride that entire section, and that's going to put some riders under. In fact, he now has to get off, but not too much, as Van der Poel comes flying through the pack and gets onto the wheels of Lars van der Haar and Wout van Aert really, really early. That was a big move by Van der Poel.
Yeah, just that few metres there just showed his strength on that camber section, just the way he's opening a gap on Van Aert on the hard ride. Incredible start by Stephen Hyde. Really impressive to come from second row to mixing it with the Belgians and the Dutch right now.
Yeah, he's right up there.
Steve Chanel, maybe the Frenchman.
Problem there for our leading rider, Tim Merlier. And now Van der Poel is already starting to force the pace, and Wout van Aert's got to try and go with him. The two Belgians desperately trying to stay on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel, who is already trying to really turn the pressure on. He wants to get rid of them. And are the Belgians going to ride as a team here? Because you can see here that they're trying to overtake Van der Poel, and I wonder whether they try and get in front of him and keep the pace so that Wout can get into the wheels, and we know he starts a little bit slower and that he can stay with him.
Well, the Belgians typically always rode for themselves, and that all changed the year that Niels Albert won, and they actually did manage to ride as a team, and it paid off in Hoogerheide. But it's every man for himself when you've got a rider like Mathieu van der Poel riding like this. I mean, he's on fire right now, and the three Belgians trying to chase him, led by Van Aert, Tim Merlier and Michael van Turnhout, I think, in 4th place.
The speed of Mathieu van der Poel. He's just kicking on the way Joris Nieuwenhuis, compatriot, did in the under-23 race. This is such a fast opening lap here. A couple of problems for some riders as they hit the deck in that really muddy little section. Van der Poel now is keeping the pressure on. His 5-minute power output is massive. He just is flying around this course, but Wout van Aert looks good today. He's trying to go with him, but so far has not been quite able to match the initial pace. Look at the amount of Belgians who are all behind Mathieu van der Poel. They're all lined up.
Well, you got 6 in the first 7 there, but for the Belgians, it doesn't really make a difference if you're not number 1. So 2nd to 6th, they'll still be disappointed, but right now, Van der Poel doesn't need teammates.
No, he's on his own. He's in front of his home crowd, everyone urging him on. Wout van Aert is matching him right now. He's able to stay with him. He's able to stay with him when he's running. The question is whether he can stay with him on the cycling sections. Wout van Aert is right in on the wheel, and he's just got to be patient here, hasn't he? He's just got to stay with him.
Well, yeah, that takes patience, but it also takes an awful lot of ability. If we see Van der Poel trying to do a fast first lap like Nieuwenhuis did in the under-23 men, just to try and kind of stamp his mark on the race, then he could pay for it later. You know, we've seen Van der Poel just ride away on the first lap. Some problems for the Belgians back there, look like Quinten Hermans maybe.
Well, Wout's gone to the front.
I think that's what Wout, if he can, that's what he would prefer to do. I think he needs to ride his pace if he can do it, but I don't think Van der Poel's going to let him take the front too often, especially if Van der Poel is trying to slap his mark on this race in the first lap.
It's definitely what he's trying to do. Michael Van Turenhout is there. Wout is trying to ride areas of this course that Van der Poel isn't able to ride. Now, Simon, tell me, there's a lot of chat about the tyres he's got on, and they had the tyres last year, which really played with everyone's minds, and apparently he's got new tyres again today that some people think could make a huge difference.
Well, evidently he has. He was, again, Niels Albert, the team manager and the kind of the mentor of Wout van Aert, decided last week he was going to practice or experiment with a mountain bike tread on a Dugast casing. So he got Mr. Dugast for 3 days, taking rubber off a regular 26-inch mountain bike tyre and taking the rubber down with a Dremel and messing around with the shape of it.
Really?
They had them measured for size by the UCI officials 2 days ago in training, and it was touch and go if they were going to pass. But I've just found out at the start today that Van der Poel's on a 30mm tyre, so whether he's preferred to go a regular Dugast with a narrow one. We talked about it this morning about in the old days it was more of a choice to go 30 or 32 or 34mm at the time.
Yeah.
It's a smart choice. 30mm makes absolute sense on a course like this. Mathieu van der Poel has stuck with a regular tyre, not even the new softer compound tread, preferred to stick with what he already knew from the season.
So Wout's got right on the limit as far as width is concerned.
Well, he hasn't. They were experimenting with the tyre with the mountain bike tread that was actually on the limit. He's evidently preferred to go with a narrower tyre today.
Okay.
So, but that was just unveiled literally on the start line. So again, it's going to be one of these things where we'll hear about it in the next day or so. Who used what?
But he does look like he's being able to ride some of the sections that Van der Poel is not able to ride. Just even a few extra feet or extra meters.
And in an hour, that's going to pay off. That's the amount of time you can stay on the bike is good news. So it's going to be interesting to find out what happens. Laurent Sweet, another one with an interesting tyre. He's actually on a tubeless Dugast tubular, the only rider in the race on using that. And I think so far it's been a Challenge Limas World Championships. I think they've won every race, I think, so far. So yeah, could be a change of time. Manufacturer taking the front at for the elite men. Well,
so far we've got a race on. I know some of you thinking that Van der Poel would ride away, but Van Aert is taking this race on now to Mathieu van der Poel, who started very, very fast indeed, and now Van Aert matching him and able to ride at his own tempo. We'll see whether Van der Poel has gone into the red a little bit early. And Van Aert looks strong, and he looks like he is good on the running section so far. But don't forget, Van Turenhout is not that far behind these two riders, despite this really fast start. Now, let's remind ourselves that the opening lap in the under-23 was 9:37. And these riders have still got the 30 steps and the run into the finish. So Joris Nieuwenhuis's 9:37 opening lap is going to be maybe the fastest lap we've seen of any of the races by the time these two get down to the finish line. We'll have a little look. It's going to be very, very close, but they're not going massively faster, which gives an idea about the course and what's happened over the last 3 hours or so since this race started. They're going to be maybe a few seconds quicker because we've got this little start section. But here they go. End of lap number 1. And we are going to see two leaders, which is not a surprise, Van Aert and Van der Poel, as they cross the line. That was a 9:36 opening lap, 1 second faster than Joris Nieuwenhuis's opening 9:37 in the under-23 race.
I think the difference will be lap consistency. I think, as we saw on the under-23 men, Nieuwenhuis did that very fast 9:37, but then was slow into sort of 10:15s. Well, he slowed down significantly after that, but it's whether these two at the front are knocking out 9:30s, 9:40s consistently. That'll be the difference between the two races. But the gap back, look at those gaps, 24 seconds back to Laurens Sweeck in fourth after a lap is significant. But it's right now it's playing out as expected. The two big favourites are at the front of the race, and I'm happy that Wout van Aert was able to match Mathieu van der Poel in that first half lap, because it looked like van der Poel was going out just to try and stamp some authority on this race from lap 1 and just extend the lead. But Van Aert was able and up for the challenge.
Well, let's see what happens on this lap. Is Van der Poel just recovering and sitting there and letting Wout do the work, or is he under a little bit of pressure? We'll soon find out. Hello to all of you who've messaged Simon and I, Steph Sittlington. That was a fast start. Tim Johnson's watching and having a party. Tim, great to hear from you. Michael Baldwin, hope you're enjoying the action. And Sean Mooney as well. Mark G, thanks very much supporting Stephen Hyde, who had a fantastic start but has dropped away a little bit. Just having a look to see where he is. Now 15th after that initial surge, up there in the top 10 riders off the start line as we go past the casino, with so many fans now in this area. And Van Aert leads with Van der Poel stuck on his wheel. Guess, Simon, this is what Wout has to do. He has to ride his own race on the front, try and put Van der Poel in under pressure to make some mistakes, and just try and get a few seconds here and there if he can. Well,
I think right now he just needs to ride his own race and ride the tempo that he's comfortable with, that he knows he can manage. I think he's going to be expecting a Van der Poel attack at some point, but you know, he's keeping the pressure on for sure. And you know, Michael Vanthourenhout out in third, he's a bit in no man's land there. There's a chasing group behind him with the rest of the Belgians, and Laurens Sweeck's on his own now. I think this is just going to be a race of individuals, and it's just these two at the front seeing how long they stay together, because we've seen Van der Poel just watch Van Aert for a couple of laps in races every weekend this year, and then just putting a blistering attack and put 20-25 seconds into him, and then just time trial to the finish. And this will give Van Aert confidence that he hasn't gone out on the first lap and lost time. So he's in the place he wants to be right now at the front.
Van der Poel makes a little error then as he went round that corner. He went into the post at the side. Van Aert is able to dictate things, so Van der Poel just falling over, not a major mistake.
Exactly where we saw Pidcock crash in the under-23 race. I think same corner, and that rut just takes you into the fencing just there.
So the top 10 riders then: Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, Michael Vanthourenhout, Laurens Sweeck, Tim Merlier, Dan Soot, Steve Chanel, the French champion, Michael Boros, who always does well in the World Championships, and Corne van Kessel. Michael Boros of the Czech Republic, riding well in 9th place so far. And look back through his history, he was 7th last year. He always produces a good ride in the World Championships. An attack now from Wout van Aert.
Not really an attack, it was more of a bit of a stumble from Van der Poel that initiated that gap, just slid out on a corner unclipped, and just took him a few seconds to get back in and momentum back up. But
well, Wout,
it's how he closes these little gaps after a mistake or after a slip that will show the kind of legs he's got.
Well, Wout certainly is looking the strongest we've seen him for a little while. He was 2nd in Hoogerheide, 2nd in Nome, 3rd that day in Zolder, where he just decided he had to have a little bit of a break. Before that, he'd won in Namur, he'd won in Zeven, he won no other rounds of the World Cup before that. It was Mathieu van der Poel all the way. He won in Iowa, in Waterloo, in Koksijde, in Bodensee, and in Zolder. So it's going to be an interesting now lap as Wout van Aert opens up a big advantage on Mathieu van der Poel. This is a big gap. Van der Poel.
If he just looks left now and sees him, That'll encourage him for sure, because that gap extended initially on the first bit of running, but then Van der Poel was slow back on his bike and didn't look very comfortable once it was back up and running.
Well, this is a real race now. Van der Poel was just doing his zip up then as he rode across that road. It's so cold out here, and it will get to these riders at some point, as we see Wout van Aert crossing round now, looking across at where Van der Poel is. Suddenly...
It's 8 or 9 seconds there right now. It doesn't look comfortable running, Van der Poel, compared to Van Aert.
No.
This early part of the race, but...
Van Aert, to me, just looks strong, doesn't he? On those sections, he's the strongest I've seen him for weeks when he's running. And that's always been a good strength of his. Here we go, up this little rise now. This gap is growing, and look at the speed of Wout van Aert. Just got fast feet as he makes his way up here. He just looks confident. He just looks like he really is totally in the zone. Meanwhile, a little more laboured, but still there. Mathieu van der Poel has got to try and hold this gap. There we are, a little stumble as he gets near the top. This is the tailwind climb. Gets to the top, back on the bike now.
That's 13 seconds. That lead's going out, and Van der Poel didn't look as comfortable on that run up. Van Aert looks strong, sure-footed, and like you said, fast foot speed on it, and that is a nearly vertical run up. That is so hard.
Yeah, I mean, you stand at the bottom of that, look up and think, that is extremely steep. Oh!
Yeah, trying to take his glasses off and pick a bike up. You need 3 hands to do that, so...
Yeah, trying to do too many things at once. Right, he's okay. That was almost a real problem. Took his gloves off, the bike was there. These guys are absolutely on their limit right now, and...
Yeah, Van Toornat's coming back to Van der Poel, so it's a Van der Poel slowing down, not necessarily a Van Aert speeding up.
Do you think this start by Van der Poel might have just pushed him over the edge for a minute? It was such a quick start.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? I really think he just wanted to dominate this race, and I think he wanted to stamp his authority on it so early to put Van Aert under no illusions as to who was going to be the boss around here, and it didn't work.
Van der Poel and Van Turnhout next to each other. Van der Poel keeps trying to pull, I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to get the zip adjusted on his skin suit. I don't know whether he's having trouble breathing right now or just it's annoying him, but he's adjusted it about 3 times in the last lap. If you keep an eye on him, every now and then he just takes his hand off the bars, grabs the zip on that jersey, as we see Wout van Aert now on the ramps.
It'll be interesting to see the role that Van Toornat plays in this Belgian teamwork, if there's going to be any or not. It's not a perfect opportunity now just to slot in front of Van der Poel and just slow it down a notch or two and let Wout extend his lead.
Getting towards the end of lap number 2, we're going to have 7 laps of racing as they come round now. And Wout van Aert blinking through the mud. He's taken the glasses off because he couldn't see through those. Now he's coming up to complete lap number 2. He's got a long, long way to go till the end of this race.
Toornat's there looking like he's in 4th place. We don't see anybody after the Van Toornat, Van der Poel battle. Maybe Toornat's there in 4th.
Coming round the corner then, here is Mathieu van der Poel with Michael Van Turnhout. And Van Turnhout normally would not, with all respect to him, be right on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel, and he's able to match him as he goes past. And we're talking a lot of seconds here.
25 seconds is significant, isn't it, after 2 laps?
That's a big gap. And to give you an idea of consistency on laps, and Simon, you talked about that a moment ago, 9:36 followed by 9:31. And in the under-23 race, it went 9:36 and well over 10 minutes. So it's totally changed. The consistency of lap is what Wout van Aert is causing problems with.
And that's exactly what Elie Iserbyt talked about in his post-race interview, and about this consistency. And I think that if Van Aert's now in a rhythm that he can keep these 7 laps going, that's going to be the secret to his success, because if he can keep 7 laps within, if we say 15 seconds, that would be consistent. And then, you know, there's not much you can do about that if you're coming from behind, because all you can do is go over your limit to try and close a gap, and that's what you can't do on a course like this.
Well, I noticed when Van Aert had gone to the front, you saw Mathieu van der Poel, the hunched shoulders suddenly appeared, which we never see. Hunched shoulders, under pressure, and now he's really having to work hard. As we see this huge crowd around the casino area. 170 metres now is the lead for Wout van Aert, with the advantage at 29 seconds on Michael van Turnhout and 30 seconds on Mathieu van der Poel on lap number 3 of racing. Joining us in the commentary box now, a very warm welcome to a rider who rode yesterday on this course, so we can get a little bit of an insight. Helen Wyman, a very warm welcome.
Hiya, you're right.
Good. Very warm welcome, because it's freezing out there.
It is absolutely freezing, and it snowed as well between the under-23 race and this race. It's cold.
So tell us a little bit about this course. You rode it yesterday. We've not had the benefit of talking to a rider who's actually ridden the course. Talk us through it. How tough is it out there?
It's absolutely brutal. The ruts are deeper than you can imagine. They're right up to the rear mechs. That's how deep they are in places. And there are times where you have to just get in the rut and hope that it's going to get you around the corners. And there are other times where, it's actually quicker to run. On some of the descents, at the minute, the last couple of ruts, it's actually quicker to run. So
in terms of you picking your way around this course, I mean, Wout van Aert, until then...
Just there, that's the rut where I was just talking about. You watched this morning in the under-23 race that Elie Iserbyt crashed there on one of the laps, and after that he ran that last section, just because it's actually that hard to keep your bike in the ruts. They're that deep there.
What Simon and I have been talking an awful lot about is the fact that on camera this looks pretty flat.
Yeah.
But these cambers that we're on are really steep. The run-up is extremely hard.
It's the hardest part of the race is actually from the second pit to the finish line, and it doesn't actually look that tough, but after the pit there's a muddy section that's really quite technical, and then there's a run, and then you have to get on the road, which is uphill. And yesterday you might get on and you're almost stationary, and then you had to accelerate to get to the next run. It's a really tough course, but it's a really good course, I think, for spectators. For spectators,
it's absolutely fantastic. For riders, every rider we've seen finish a race is just completely spent. We saw Evie Richards faint at the finish. Sanne Cant could hardly recover for minutes after the race. Just how damaged were you at the end?
Yeah, physically it's really, really tough, and I think that's what a World Championship course should be like. It should be the strongest rider, is the best in the world, and it actually makes for really hard racing for the riders, but it means that everybody's trying really hard and there's no tactics involved. You just got to ride.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how tough it is, you want, I guess, from anybody's point of view, you want the World Cups to be hard, and in the World Championship to be the absolute pinnacle for everybody. So on that day, you were the best rider in the world, you won it, and you couldn't have given any more.
Absolutely, and I think as well there's different courses for different riders, and I think when you look traditionally over the World Championships, we haven't had one this hard in a really long time, and that means that everybody gets an opportunity, and in 2 years it will be sand, and in the elite men's you won't see much difference, but in the other categories I think you'll see different riders with it.
Well, that's good to know. In terms of tyre selection today, we've seen all sorts of things going on here. Simon and I have been talking about it. How hard was it for you to choose what you were going to ride? And then these riders have clearly been swapping things around, trying to get the right combinations of things to ride this race.
Yeah, for me it wasn't actually that hard. I just went straight to the Limas. It's a full mud tyre, and where you can ride you need that much grip, and you actually find Sana rode a Limas yesterday, but she's not sponsored by Challenge. She put them on because they were better than the tyre choices she had.
Right.
And so already 3 of the winners of the races have been on the same tyre. So as the race gets more and more running, you might change your selection, because there might be places where you don't need the traction, but you actually need, you don't necessarily need the grip, but you might want an easier tread for the road sections. But I think for these guys, it's kind of half and half, and so you go for the best tread that gives you the most grip.
And about tyre pressures and things like that, it varies a little bit with Ryder. But did you spend ages trying to work that out, or were you out on the course and you're like, right, okay, that's what I need?
Yeah, this course is kind of a course of 2 halves. There's, after the start, there's gravelly descent, and that's got a lot of stones, and there's tree roots and things, and so you don't want to run a load pressure that you would for the rest of the course, but you still need the grip. So, you know, I went for 14 and 15 PSI and tried the difference between the two. It doesn't sound like much,
no,
but it actually does feel different. And in the end, I went for 15 just because you were actually running a lot of the descent, so you didn't need the same amount of grip.
We're looking here now at a men's race that is slightly different to what we expected. We expected Mathieu van der Poel to dominate the race, to go away. He tried to go away, and it looks like it's not paid off. Are you surprised with how this race is shaping up?
I am, actually. I really did expect Mathieu van der Poel to just ride away. I expected Tom Pidcock to do the same in the under-23s, and I think we've seen some surprises this weekend, which is really exciting to see. I mean, it would be great if they were together and battling it out.
Yeah, they would.
But equally, I'm sure Wout van Aert wouldn't like that.
No, he's doing an incredible ride.
For me, the rides of the weekend were Ben in the Ben in the juniors, and Evie obviously winning, but Harriet Harnden in the under-23 women's. There's a 16-year-old, and she was right up there, and that's someone really exciting to watch for the future.
That was I think that's the ride of the weekend for everybody. A 16-year-old finishing 4th place in an under-23 world title against some big names.
Yeah, and she's really good on the technical stuff. Like these ruts that they're going through now are actually really tough, and when these guys make it look tough, you know that for everybody else, they have the best skills in the world, and you know for everybody else how difficult that is, and she was riding them everything really, really well.
Yeah, very, very impressive. So Wout van Aert is leading. We're on lap number 3 of 7 laps. He's got an advantage now that's opening up to around about 50 seconds. Final question then before we say bye to you. It's been a great season of cyclocross. Do you see this sport just growing all the time?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that we're now establishing the under-23 category for women. I think the junior category, when that comes in the next 2 seasons, will be really exciting for the women. I think that the sport is just growing every year, and you see the amount of people out there. It's just fantastic to see, and I think in the elite men's categories it's not so international as it is in the other categories, but for Britain it's been a fantastic weekend.
It has. Very, very good indeed. Well, Helen Wyman, thank you very much. We really appreciate your insight and for taking the time to come in and speak to us and give us your knowledge of what it was like, and well done yesterday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Helen Wyman, who says as she leaves, it's brutal out there, and it certainly is, as we see Wout van Aert coming round again. End of lap number 3. We'll get an idea of whether he is just riding consistently or whether he's starting to slow down. The signs are that he's not slowing down at all. Wout van Aert crosses the line with a 9:44 actually. So he's slowed down by 13 seconds, but his lead is still a huge lead on the rest of the riders behind him. He has really taken this race on to everybody else. Simon, noticed anything while Helen was in chatting as to what's going on here?
No, just the fact that Van der Poel is obviously not a happy bunny out there. Michael Van Toornout putting time into him as well. So I think similar to Pidcock, I think it's not the race we were expecting. Van Toornout together again with Van der Poel, but the gap back to Van Aert, and you can see Van Toornout there just
shakes his
banging
head.
The back of his thigh. It looks like he's. I can't believe he'd be cramping up after 3 laps, but
he has a problem. Either he's got a hamstring problem, or he's cold, or I don't know. He looks around at I mean, he's been riding a stunning race so far, and he's certainly in there with a fight for the silver medal, but suddenly Van Deurenhout has got a little bit of an issue here.
I thought it'd be cold hands. I wouldn't have thought they normally tend to shake the hands when it's cold enough, but we'll see what happens with that. But again, both of those guys over a minute now behind a flying and very motivated Wout van Aert.
We were talking beforehand, and the press over the last few days, you've been keeping an eye on it and what's been said, but they've both been piling the pressure on each other. And Wout's been very clever at trying to throw the pressure back on Mathieu van der Poel and basically saying, you know, he's the best rider in the world and he'll be the winner, or he's the favourite.
It's history, isn't it? I think it's always been the case of the Belgians and the Dutch in the media. Every generation of cyclocross has had a Dutch and a Belgian at the front of the races, and the media just build it up to such an extent, and every single thing they try to pick up on, every opportunity to play a mind game with the rider from the other country, they'll take it. And it's fascinating to watch it. I don't kind of understand a lot of the press that I read been in Flemish, but you get the idea. And you know, some of the social media now that the riders put out, you can get a feel for just what they're trying to achieve and just trying to take pressure off themselves, put a little bit more pressure on somebody else, because it's a cauldron. And when you're competing in here in front of, I don't know how many people there are here, but I would guess in the 20,000s, then every single pair of eyes is either Belgian or Dutch supporting. So it is the pressure is huge.
It is. While Wout is going around the course, I've had a few tweets at UCI_CX. Let's update a few different countries because we're concentrating on the leader right now. So Steve Chanel is 7th for France, and he's running 2 minutes down. Lars van der Haar is 9th for the Netherlands. In terms of other riders, Stephen Hyde of the United States of America is now in 19th place. Swiss rider Marcel Wildhaber is 18th at 3:17. Those of you who are just trying to keep an update on one rider, have a look at the live timing. Van Deurenhout now is starting to feel the pressure. Have a look at the live timing, which you can find on uci.ch, and that can keep you updated with the riders. Michael van den Ham is 30th for Canada. Ian Field is 33rd for Great Britain as things stand right now. Gary Milburn of Australia, that's probably his best ride so far, 37th. And then the Americans, Cody Kaiser, Tobin Ortenblad, Jack Kisseberth are 40th, 41st, 42nd. Tristan Cowie is 44th. The Japanese riders, and I must say hello to Daisuke and all the guys who are watching. Hikaru Kosaki and Yu Takenuchi are 54th and 55th at this moment in time. Glenn Kinning of Ireland 56th. So that gives you an update on some of the different nationalities and some of the riders as we keep an eye on Wout van Aert, who is now 33 minutes through this effort. And this rider who has had a troubled season, some would say, and he probably would say it himself. I remember him tweeting just towards the end of 2017 and just saying pretty much that he was sorry to his fans and he just needed to go away, train, go back to basics, eat, sleep, repeat. Well, eat, sleep, train, repeat. I guess you should do some training in between. And just try and work out what was going on. And it's paid dividends.
Yeah, I think he was just a little bit embarrassed that Van der Poel was just putting him in second place in every single race for a period of time, and he didn't quite know what to do about it. And I think, again, that pressure to try to perform just builds and builds, and he did exactly the right thing. He took himself off to Greece for a training camp and just rode his bike in the sunshine and like you say, slept and ate and repeated. And that's exactly what he needed to do. He just needed to clear his mind about it, do the hard work, and if he does the hard work, then he knows he's done that. All he can do then is perform at his best. What Van der Poel does is out of his control. You know, that's nothing, not part of his plan at all. He just needs to be the best he can be. And right now, he's obviously in good shape. He looks great. He looks good on his bike. He looks very strong running. And opposite to that, Van der Poel is, body language again says it all. He just looks a little bit head down and messing with his skin suit zips and just not really on top of his game. And we haven't seen this all season from him, really.
No, we haven't seen this at all. I mean, he started the season in Iowa. He won that. He won Waterloo. He won Koksijde. He won Bodensee. Then he went to Zolder after Van Aert had beaten him twice. He won that. He won Nome. He won Hoogerheide. It's been an exemplary season for Mathieu van der Poel. I think he's had 26 wins this season.
But the way that Van Aert's running up this climb,
yeah,
I can't emphasise how hard that is. And it's one foot in front of the other, and it's fast cadence, and he's got it nailed, and he's just looks so strong, so solid right now.
Yeah, I mean, we went to the bottom of that the other day and looked up it, and we're talking almost a wall. It's so steep to get up from that bottom.
Toon Aerts as well, coming back a little bit, I think, to the Van der Poel, Van Tornout pair. Just we saw him in the background on the last camera shot.
He's only 7 seconds behind.
7 seconds is good for Toon Aerts, and this will be a course that'll suit him. European champion last year. He's one of the few that's kind of been able to get on the podium behind the Van Aert, Van der Poel 1-2. So
the speed that Van Aert is going is so impressive. He's got things absolutely right for today. He really has. Thanks for the messages. Sue Butcher. Yes, this is really happening. Wout van Aert is dominating this race. He managed to go with the acceleration of Van der Poel. He tried to basically get rid of everyone as he normally does. He may well have just gone into the red zone, and since then he's been unzipping his skin suit. He's been trying to get some air into his chest. It may well be that he just went far too quick at the beginning, or like Tom Pidcock, he just feels there's something wrong. And Van Tornout now is ahead of Mathieu van der Poel, who's just trudging his way up this climb. Just so far is not his day.
I always like seeing a left-handed rider as well on the course, riding with a right-handed rider. The side they get off their bike, and on the canvas especially, on the really difficult left-hand cambered corner that we've seen Pidcock and Van der Poel crashing on, with Van Tornout hopping off on the left-hand side there, so much quicker than Van der Poel. Riders tend to be one or the other. It's very rare that you see a rider in a race consciously jumping on and off on both sides.
Yeah.
But only if you kind of have a problem and you end up on the wrong side of your bike would you do it. But there's more and more left-handed riders now. There's I think Laurens Sweeck, Michael Van Tornout, Kevin Powles, and again you always end up with the mechanics on the wrong side in the pits.
It's good to pick that out and to show you that you don't have to get off on one side. So if you're left or right-handed, you can just adjust the way you get on and off the bike. End of lap number 4 of 7. And we're coming up now with Wout van Aert, who is absolutely flying around this course. He hasn't looked back since he went on the attack. It's a time trial as far as he's concerned. He's absolutely loving this course. A 9:38, so 6 seconds faster than the last lap. So he's gone 9:36, 9:31, 9:44, 9:38. But he's also just riding all these really tricky sections, and he has done from the start, where he seemingly has been able to ride certain little bits of the course where no one else has been able to ride, as we see Toon Aerts now coming back. He's only a few seconds behind Mathieu van der Poel, and the possible medal for Toon Aerts, and Laurens Sweeck a little bit further back. We're talking 42 seconds back to the next group. So I think the medals are with the top 4 riders right now.
But this gap for Van Aert is... We haven't seen a gap like this. We haven't seen a rider dominate with a lead in a race like this for years. I can't remember the last time we saw a rider with 3/4 of the way through a race with a 1 minute and 3/4 lead. This is...
Do you think the tyre selection he's made here, which is different to everyone else, has made such a big difference?
It could well have, absolutely. You know, it did last year. He didn't have as many flat tyres as everybody else did. It's smart thinking, and I don't know exactly what he has done. I don't know. All we're hearing is rumours about, mountain bike tyre treads. And again, literally 30 seconds before the start, I just got a tweet from a mechanic friend who said he's on 30mm tyres, and that's unusual. We don't see that so much now, and it's just, again, thinking about all the small things that could give you an advantage.
Yeah.
And if he's done something that's making a difference, then absolutely fair play to him, because it's very hard now to find an equipment choice that gives you an advantage. Bikes are generally quite generic. You go for one group set or another, and you can have a pedal choice, but apart from that, everything's pretty similar. It's not like a few years ago where you could be quite smart with equipment to make a difference. But again, the little things like tyres on a course like this could be it. Sven Vanthourenhout, former rider, first year as the Belgian national coach, and this is the kind of result he's looking for.
Yeah.
Because there was a little bit of controversy in the press again with his selection for the Belgian team. They left Kevin Pounds out, which was a big surprise for everybody. I think ranked top 6 in the UCI ranking and didn't get selected. Third Belgian.
He was third last year in the World Championships.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a great year. He's not really been on podiums in World Cups, but he's been that kind of consistent top 6, top 8 rider. But that's not what the Belgians are looking for. They're looking for riders to win and to get on the podium. So a brave choice by a new coach in his first year, but it's so far so good. I think we're looking at 5 Belgians in the top 6.
Yeah, we are. We're looking at certainly he's instilled a real confidence in this squad. Simon, a couple of questions. Wally Bolden has said, what sort of run miles do they do during the week? How much do they run in their training?
It does vary very much rider to rider. Some riders will just kind of wake up in the morning and go for a quick run. I was at the World Cup race in America earlier in the season. I just kind of was at breakfast and saw Mathieu van der Poel coming back from a run with one of his teammates at 7:30 in the morning. It's just a lot of riders will do that. Wake up, go out. Oof.
Oof. That was a big crash.
That one's going to sting. Yeah, just hit the barrier with his right arm.
This is the thing, he's got to keep concentrated. Let's see what happens here. Well, Van Aert, oops. And a flick over, luckily. Let's make sure the bike is okay. Don't know what he actually did then.
Just got his front wheel stuck in the foot of the barrier, I think.
Yeah.
So some riders do that. Some riders won't run at all, just as a general run. They won't go out for a 20-minute, 30-minute run. They'll just run in their cyclocross training. So they'll do a short circuit on a cross that's got maybe a run-up or some running sections or hurdles, and they'll just get their running from that. And some riders like to run in training. They enjoy it, and some riders absolutely hate it. So most cyclocross riders you have to do some. It's all part of the sport, but I think generally the races now, the courses have been less and less running than whatever 10 or 15 years ago. So it's unusual to get a course like this regularly where you have a lot of running. So again, you kind of look at courses especially for World Championships. Coaches, riders even, will go looking at courses and they'll try to figure out what the weather's going to do and if that's going to mean a running race, and maybe throw a little bit more running into the schedule in the weeks beforehand. So each to his own, I think.
Get him splashing through this mud right now, just picking whatever line. A couple of other questions. Daisuke Yano wants to know tyre pressure on Wout's bike.
Yeah, I don't know that on a 30mm tyre. I say we only got that information really late, but I would guess on a 30mm tyre it's going to be that kind of 1.2 bars, 16 psi-ish. I had an interesting one actually at the start. I saw Stu Thorne, Stephen Hyde's team manager from the US, and he got 22 psi in. 22? Which is significantly harder than everybody else I've spoken to, and he was just very conscious and very aware that there could be some pinch flats on the roots and the stones in the first part of the course in the forest, and just playing safer rather than sorry. So again, it's not a set in stone number. Different riders, different. We talked to Helen before. and just 1 PSI to her made a difference, and she could feel the difference. So
yeah,
it's once you got a rider with such experience, they can, you know, they're so in tune with the bike and how it feels, which is amazing, because you think the surface they're riding on changes all the time, that you wouldn't think that you'd be able to feel the tyres, but these riders can absolutely tell when just 1 PSI makes a difference. So
it's making a difference. Every little thing that these riders have done for this championship. And of course we talk about Wout van Aert and his mentor, and Toon Aert is coming back to Mathieu van der Poel. Wout van Aert is looked after and trained by Niels Albert. For those of you who don't know Niels Albert, then you go back in history and he was world champion 2009, 2012, 2013. Niels unfortunately had a heart condition that he had to then retire. He was an exceptional cyclocross rider, but he's been the coach of Wout van Aert since then, and he coaches his riders so closely. He's in touch with them every single day. He makes sure he knows exactly what they're doing. He takes them out on the courses, he takes them in the forests. And Michael Vanthourenhout is riding away from Mathieu van der Poel right now. Well, the Belgians with their coaches and with their new head coach are dominating this race. And if Mathieu van der Poel's not careful, as the snow falls, the sleet falls outside, he's going to get caught by Toon Aert. And we could be looking at any moment at a Belgium 1-2-3 in this World Championship, which is something we never thought before the race started that would actually happen. The gap now to second place, Simon, is 2 minutes 47 seconds.
yeah, I think that's unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen that since the 80s, probably. Incredible time gap for Wout van Aert. So in control, so strong, so focused.
Stephen Hyde now is in 16th place. He's moved up, 4 minutes 42 seconds down. And 16th for the United States of America. Some other countries for you. Michael Vandenham, 32nd for Canada. And just looking at a couple of others for you. Ian Field of Great Britain, 34th. Gary Milburn of Australia now in 36th. That's got to be his best result so far. Thanks very much for all the questions. Thanks for taking part over the weekend at UCI_CX is where you can message us.
Just had a message from Ryan Crabber asking why there are no barriers on the course, and are they actually required? Well, they're not a requirement. You can have them. If you have them, they have to be a maximum height and a certain width apart, but you don't have to have them on a course. And I think on a course that's as hard as this, they're not really going to add anything. They're just going to make a rideable section even harder. So the organisers, yeah, decided they didn't need them, and I think that was the right choice on this course.
Into the pits, Michael Vanthourenhout. So muddy in there. Right, we're coming round the end of lap number 5. And Wout van Aert in a proper individual time trial crosses the line, 9:58. 20 seconds slower that time, but he did have that little tumble. So that's his slowest lap so far, and 2 more laps of racing to go for Wout van Aert, the defending champion. He's been the champion 2016, 2017, Van der Poel in 2015. But Van Aert just making short work of all these little rises. Every now and then out the saddle, sprinting over the top of the next little rise. It's just so significantly quicker than the Dutchman who's here in front of his home crowd.
Well, we say home crowd. He's a Dutchman by passport, but he lives in Belgium, grew up in Belgium. His father, Adrie van der Poel, moved to Belgium when he was racing, and that's where David and Mathieu have been brought up. So they probably feel Belgium, but they've definitely got Dutch support, and the Dutch still want them to perform as in the orange skin suits.
Watching Wout van Aert then round this little section as he puts on the brakes. All these riders now on disc brakes. There's no cantilever brakes around on this level anymore. And I can't imagine what riding with cantilever brakes on this course would have been like.
Yeah, it would have been different for sure. Yeah. Now, technology has moved on so much in the last few years that bikes are nothing like they used to be, and disc brakes is a massive advantage on a cross bike.
There's a few of you asking about where you get these world champion pom-pom hats that you see everywhere. They're being sold.
The big bobble hat company.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're across from us at the moment. I don't know whether you can buy them online. Big Bobble Hat Company is where you can get them, and they are the official partner of the World Championships. Mathieu van der Poel crosses the line. 2 minutes and 13 seconds down on this man who has basically just said to everybody, I'm going out and I'm going to destroy the field. The World Championships is everything to Wout van Aert.
Interesting, the timing. I think we might have a blip on the timing. I think we were looking at a 2:45 time split,
yeah, we were.
Half a lap ago. I think this sounds more realistic. I think we may be looking at a split that hadn't stopped earlier.
Yeah, 1:56 now is the gap.
Still significant.
Yeah,
it's still.
But getting towards 3 minutes was huge.
Well, yes. I mean, we're looking at over 4 minutes in the top 10 now.
So the top 10 riders: Wout van Aert, Michael van Turenhout of Belgium. Mathieu van der Poel is now about 17 seconds behind the second place rider. Then Turenhout of Belgium in fourth. Joli Bertolini now has moved into fifth place for Italy. Michael Boros of the Czech Republic in sixth. Lars van der Haar moves into seventh place for the Netherlands. Laurens Sweeck in eighth. Tim Merlier in ninth. Dan Soot in 10th place. So the riders we're expecting to be up there are up there. Steve Chanel now in 12th place, the French champion. Francis Moret having his best world championships for a little while. Moret, of course, was the bronze medalist 2006 and now 13th. So up there. David van der Poel 14th. But so far it's a day for Belgium with the top two riders in this race. A few people asking, have many people been lapped? Raymond's just asked me, any lapped riders? I'm sure
there will have been, yeah.
There will be.
There's an 80% regulation where they try to avoid riders being lapped by...
bit slidey.
Kept it upright, that was good. Yeah, 80% rule where the commissaires will take the time of the first lap, take 80% of it, and then on lap 3, they'll start the 80% where they'll pull riders out when they are that time behind the leader, and they'll be removed from the race just before the finish line. They'll still get a position, they'll still get points, they'll still get prize money if that's applicable, but it just avoids them tangling with the leader. Occasionally we've seen it in the last races yesterday, where a rider might just slide through the 80%, but then in the following lap slows so much that they are caught by the leader. But the days of lapping down to the top 15 or so, when we were getting all sorts of lap riders in the picture and causing some confusion, also just kind of obviously able to get in the way of the leaders, which we were trying to avoid. So
yeah, the riders pretty much have a clear track now.
But it does change how you race. If you're a rider that's expecting to get pulled, then you will adjust your race and your effort to maybe a 5-lap race if you think you'll make it 5 laps on the 80%. You might only race for 40 minutes, but you can adjust your race to that time. You don't always expect to race for an hour, and
yeah,
if you finished on the same lap as the winner, you might finish in an hour and 10 or hour and 15 minutes. The last rider that's not lapped today could find themselves, over an hour and 10 minutes racing.
Yeah, but at least you've ridden the World Championships, you've had that experience, and it's all about building experience and doing well. There's now 56 riders in the race. Glenn Kinning of Ireland is 55th, who's around 8 minutes down. The two Japanese riders, Kari Kosaka and Yu Takanouchi, are 53rd, 54th, and Ingvar Olmarsson of Iceland, 56th right now. He's the last rider who has not been lapped so far. Mark McConnell of Canada is 51st. Jeremy Powers 48th, still maintaining the same position that he was holding before. Van der Poel, you can just see from about halfway around lap number 1, those shoulders have hunched over and he has been under terrible pressure. Just a bad day, and riders have bad days, and if they don't, you'd worry about it. Onto the run-up, here goes Wout van Aert, sprinting, still got those really fast feet. Just so much quicker than anyone up this run-up. Picking his way, just looking for all the possible little footholds so he can get up there as quickly as possible. Looking to try and get his feet in the pedals, and 2 or 3 efforts and he still wasn't able to. So he makes his way around the next corner.
Toon Aerts is still just dangling behind Van der Poel there. Obviously, Michael Van Toornout's gone clear, but Toon Aerts just trying to make that Belgian podium.
He's only 13 behind, isn't he?
That's drawn out a little bit. I think we were 7 or 8 a lap or so ago, so... but he's in sight. It's going to be an interesting last couple of laps for that final podium position, I think.
Toon Aerts back onto the bike. He can see the orange of Mathieu van der Poel in front of him. He's got something to chase now to try and get back up there. Toon Aerts, who again has had a good season. He was 3rd in Normandie, making his way onto the podium. He was 2nd in Namur. He was 3rd in Zeven. He was 3rd in Bogensee. So he's had a few podium finishes this season. And there he is as he makes his way around the course. Talked to him in the lift a couple of days ago, and he said he liked the course, but just the ruts, he wanted them to get a bit more muddy than they were a couple of days ago. They were quite hard.
Yeah, I think Helen Wyman mentioned that as well when she was talking to you, that the ruts are so deep and so stiff that they're causing crashes as well. It's one of those situations where a little bit of rain is a good thing. It just kind of softens the mud up and makes the ruts a little bit more manageable.
John is asking, are most of these riders using electronic group sets, or are they using mechanical?
So all the Shimano-sponsored riders, they have to use electronic and they have to use double chain rings. So no single chain rings for anybody on Shimano. SRAM, again, tend to be using the single ring and electronic. But again, it depends if you're on an officially sponsored team or if you're on more of a private deal. But the big teams, certainly your Telenet Fideas and your Corendons, these people that are the official teams of the 2 big component suppliers, then they'll be on the cutting edge stuff. Yeah, absolutely, electronic and double chain rings for Shimano.
So the sponsor will actually dictate in their contract that's what they have to ride?
They will, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
For Wout van Aert, then, as he crosses the line, he'll get the bell this time. He's on an absolutely flying day today. Crosses the line, 9:55, so 3 seconds faster than the last lap. But his advantage is still around about 2 minutes on Michael Van Toornout. His teammate Van der Poel is being hunted down now by Toon Aerts. He's 7 seconds behind him. He's going to try and close in. And generally, that Van der Poel, when he's not in the medals, he starts to...
Well, you lose interest. You know, he wants a rainbow jersey. He felt he should have had it last year. He was in the shape that he should have had it and just got hampered by far too many flat tyres. He's been a dominant rider this year, and this, you would think, a few weeks ago was a nailed-on rainbow jersey for Mathieu van der Poel, and when that's not going to happen, then there is a definite lack of motivation to even finish 3rd on a podium. You know, it's all or nothing for guys at that level.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't really want another medal, does he?
He doesn't want another medal. You saw the disappointment last year when he got beaten by Van Aert. He was distraught in the podium tent at the finish of the race. He was in bits, and that's how much it meant to him not getting the rainbow jersey. And you know, in the Netherlands, as a Dutchman, after a dominant season, this was, you know, an expected victory.
Yeah.
To kind of, you know, almost get the rainbow jersey back that went by default to Van Aert last year. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. And I think Two Nights is going to get third here.
It looks that way.
Him, so yeah, it's going to be an interesting last lap. We could be seeing a Belgian clean sweep on the podium.
We certainly could. So now it's Wout van Aert, Michael Vanter, out Two Nights, Mathieu van der Poel.
And just there you saw Van der Poel climbing off, dismounting the bike before those steps, but he was dismounting early.
Just not had the day he wanted. He looked so good at the start, that explosive start. He was lying about 10th place, and then suddenly he just accelerated, came all the way through the field, right to the front, and you thought, that's it. Mathieu van der Poel on another one of those days where he's just going to ride away, but Wout managed to go with him. I think also teammates of Wout managed to close the gap for him a little bit as Van der Poel does his shoes up, getting himself ready for the last lap. And I think he's just going to sit there and maybe just get the medal if he decides that that's what he wants to do. He goes past our commentary box, side by side with Two Nights. What a race we have had. What an upset. We expected Van der Poel to be at the front or riding away, and he just hasn't had the day that he wanted. As we watch Wout van Aert with this lovely camera shot showing you just how steep this bank is, as he tracks his way through these little rises, through the little cutaways, through the mud, staying on his bike all the time, as much as he possibly can.
So the advantage there for a left-handed rider is you've got your left foot out scooting along. It's easy for you to jump off onto the right side of the bike. For Van Aert to jump off there, he would have to put his left foot back on the pedal and then climb back over onto the high side of the camber as well. So
yeah, just
on certain cambers, well, depends on the direction of the camber, the direction of the advantage of the left or right-handed rider.
Taking a look at these two riders then. Who's going to get the bronze medal? Can't quite believe we're talking about Mathieu van der Poel going for bronze right now and potentially not getting anything. The season he's had and the palmares he's got: World Champion 2015, European Champion 2017, 26 wins this season. 23 years of age. 23 years of age is this man, Wout van Aert, twice the world champion. This is him going for his hat-trick. Silver and Tabor. Michael Vanter out, going for the silver medal, and Van der Poel still interested in trying to get on the podium by the looks of things, as he decides to attack Two Nights, who has crawled his way up to him. So the question is, can the Belgian get the bronze medal? Wout van Aert splashing his way through those puddles for the last time. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for getting involved, and thanks for being part of this World Championship over the last couple of days. This has been the race that's been well worth watching, because everybody across the planet, maybe except the Belgian fans, thought this was the nailed-on rainbow jersey of Mathieu van der Poel, but it hasn't been. As he attacks now Two Nights, he's clearly decided I have to get something out of this, and I think it's probably the fact he's here in front of his home crowd that he just wants to say, OK, I didn't have a good day, but I still got on the podium and I still got a medal. A bit of pride.
Yeah, and Two Nights there, head down. I think he's burnt a lot of matches trying to get back to the Van der Poel-Van Toornout duo, and this is just going to be a few minutes too long for him. It's still going to be, it's going to be close to an hour and 8 for Van Aert, which is going to put people outside the top 10, down outside an hour 12, hour 13 of racing on a course as severe as that. That's a long day out.
That's pretty brutal. Stephen Hyde of the United States now 15th. Marcel Wildhaber of Switzerland 16th. David van der Poel down in 17th place. Kerry Werner of United States, 28th. Ian Field, 33rd for Great Britain. Michael Vandenham of Canada, 34th. Gary Milburn of Australia, 36th place right now. And everyone else is still running. They haven't been lapped. So Glenn Kinning of Ireland is now 8 minutes and 32 seconds down, but he's still there. Michael van Turen out, uphill. Mathieu van der Poel just pushing on now a little bit. He's 2 minutes and 39 seconds down on his adversary, the man who makes his life difficult. But all year, pretty much, Mathieu van der Poel has made this man have to go away and think and work out and worry about whether he can beat him. And today, all that preparation, all that hard work, all that training, all the guidance of Niels Albert has helped him to get here. And Van der Poel now is hunting down the silver medal. He's coming back a little bit. He's suddenly got a little bit of a resurgence.
Looking at 13 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
Van Turen out to Van der Poel.
He's clearly just recovered, or he's just given himself a talking to just try and get himself on the podium. It's been a hard day. If you saw the interview with Tom Pidcock after his race, he said his was torture and he didn't really want to be there. Van der Poel having not as bad a day, but he's having one of those days that he doesn't want to remember. But perhaps if he can just get the silver, then at least it will be that I recovered and I came back a little bit as the riders go back through the snow falling a little bit here in front of us. Wout van Aert has not got far to go. What a race this rider has put in. What a way to go out and win a world title and basically destroy all your rivals. Put them 2 minutes behind you on the most brutal course of the World Championships we have seen for many, many years.
I think what impresses me about Wout van Aert is the fact that he went away and thought about this, and he knew after he'd been beaten 15 or 16 times by Van der Poel this season, I've got to go and do something about this. I need to go and figure this out because this can't continue. I've got pride, I've got sponsors. I want to honour the rainbow jersey that I've got, that people think I won by default. And he took time out, he went away, like you say, he was on his own, trained hard, thought about it, and has obviously prepared for this absolutely meticulously, down to physically, bike, absolutely everything. Mental approach, the mind games, he's mastered it, and it's showing with a 2 minute beating of somebody that probably hasn't been beaten by 2 minutes ever.
No,
I can't think of an opportunity, a time when Van der Poel has had a kick in like this, and yeah, fair, absolutely respect to Wout van Aert because he's been the master of this event.
He has been the absolute master. A wonderful display, a victorious display, an awesome display by Wout van Aert. This man has just got to freewheel round the final corner. Then he can celebrate. He can take it all in because, ladies and gentlemen, the hat-trick of victories in the World Championship has just happened. Wout van Aert, the Belgian rider, has dominated this World Championship. It's number 3. He wins for Belgium. Wout van Aert, world champion. Wow, what a race.
Yeah, that was some ride. That is a cyclocross ride at the top of their game on one of the hardest courses we've probably seen for 20 years.
That was something very, very special. We're going to see an emotional Wout van Aert, there's no doubt. That was an exceptional ride. He literally time-trialled it. So impressive. He greets his girlfriend. But Wout van Aert has just shown you how to ride a cyclocross race. So impressive. Who's going to get the silver? Michael van Turenhout is almost there. He reaches the bottom of this run-up. So far, 2 minutes and something behind. Van der Poel is coming back. He wants the silver medal. He's decided that pride is important, that he needs to get the silver for the Netherlands. Michael van Turenhout has got 30 steps to hold on. He mustn't make a mistake now. Onto the steps for Michael van Turenhout to make it a 1-2 for Belgium. He's okay. The legs have held up. Van der Poel reaches them now to get the bronze medal. He's not going to quite make it. A bit of a resurgence by Van der Poel. Van Turenhout looks around. He's got some distance. Now it's a freewheel into the finish. Make no mistake on the right-hander. Michael van Turenhout of Belgium is going to make it a magnificent day for the Belgian fans. It's a 1-2. He can't believe it. The dream of getting on the podium in the Elite World Championships is there. Michael van Turenhout takes second place. That's his world title as far as he's concerned. Second place. Absolutely ecstatic. Third place for the man who's dominated the 2017 and 18 season. Just not the day for Mathieu van der Poel. He has to go away and try and come back again next year.
And that face says it all, doesn't it?
Absolutely wrecked. Coming around the corner then, Tunaerts, who at one point got back to the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel. Well done to him. Fourth place. Tunaerts, 3 minutes and 15 seconds down for fourth place.
This is going to be a long day out for the ones that don't quite get lapped or don't quite get pulled on the 80% here, but a valiant effort by Tunaerts there. I think he really tried to get back into those medal positions, made it back up to Van der Poel, but it was just one lap too long. And that last lap, you could see when Van der Poel rode away, the shoulders dropped, the head dropped, and there was nothing left in the legs. And it's good to see Van der Haar back, because he's had a difficult season. Started well, but then he's problems with just health, just not being right, and blood tests, and just trying to figure out what's going on, because he hasn't been the Lars van der Haar that we've seen in the past. And it's nice to see him top 5 of the World Championships. And again, it's something that he's salvaging something from a difficult season, and I think that'll encourage him.
Yeah, Lars van der Haar, twice the under-23 world champion, comes round the corner now. He's going to be 5th in this World Championship, crossing the line any moment now. Lars van der Haar, 4th last year, 5th this year, and he'll go away now and get ready for the next season. We're now at 4 minutes and 29 seconds. The Italian, Joli Bertolini, 6th place for him. He's very happy with 6th place. But this was the moment when these two riders started to go side by side, and Van Aert just worked his way past Van der Poel.
But just there, even the difference in body language between the two of them running there, Van Aert just looked stronger, solid, in control, not sliding, foot placement perfect. And he did that for 7 consistent laps as well. He just looked in a different league today.
Very impressive indeed. Look at the way he's going around these corners. He's just gliding. And he was able to ride more of the course.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting just to get the full tech details about what he was using tyre-wise, because, again, everybody loves the tyre story. And last year, it was part of the reason why he was successful. So it'll be interesting if it's happened again.
All smiles. Well, Van Aert, we'll hear from him. Here he is.
Wout, congratulations. What a strong performance today. You were so dominant. Maybe fans were expecting a bit more of a showdown with you and the other contenders, obviously, Mathieu.
Yeah, of course. I expected a big battle. In the second lap, I felt strong. In the beginning, it was a big challenge to follow Mathieu. I knew that before the race, that would be the most difficult part for me of the race, follow him in his first lap. And after that, I knew I had a chance, and I searched my pace in the second lap, and immediately I got a nice gap. And afterwards, I was in the rhythm. I could hold on for the rest of the race. So I didn't expect this. I think it was one of the best days in my life on the bike. So the running went so good. Yeah, can't believe it that the race went like this. I expected a big battle, but this was nice, of course.
You were constantly increasing the gap lap after lap. How did you do that?
I am type of rider when I'm alone in the front, and I got mentally everything on a good order. I can go over my limit for 1 hour, and again that happened. So it's a world championship. I don't want to take risks to slow down the pace. I just gave everything until I was on the bridge, the last lap, and afterwards I was completely dead.
What happened exactly at the fifth round? You crashed at some point. Did you lose your focus at this point?
Yeah, I made a mistake on the lowest part of the course, and afterwards I was a little bit out of my rhythm for half a lap. It was difficult because I knew it was still more than two laps, so still more than 20 minutes of the race. But then I tried to focus again, and I came back in a good pace. So I think on this course it was impossible to stay without mistakes. So also for me it happened.
Crossing a line, you raise your hand and you shot 3 with your fingers. Is this treble meaning something very, very big for you?
Yeah, of course, it's the third consecutive world title for me. I think it's pretty historical to do that in cyclocross. The names who did that before me were icons of this sport. So it means a lot to come in this select group of people, and I worked really hard for this, and now it's time to enjoy it.
Belgium is getting out of here with 3 titles out of 5. Definitely a strong, very strong year and very strong championships for Belgium.
Yeah, it's incredible for Team Belgium. Our national coach made a really good team for this championship. We were laughing the days before, and the atmosphere was really good in the group, and it made me really relax. I was without stress this morning, and I have to thank the guys for that. I think it shows Belgium is still one of the biggest countries in CX, and I'm happy that I could finish that for my country and my team.
You're definitely a great champion. Thank you very much, Wout. Thank you.
Some interesting words then, Simon, from Wout van Aert, and the camp, as far as the Belgians are concerned, relaxed and happy and motivated.
Yes, and you can see the difference it makes, and the fact that he touches on it in an interview means that it means a lot to the riders. They thrive from a positive environment, and Sven Vanthourenhout has obviously created that, changed it round. Again, we don't know how it's been the last few years, but he's obviously brought his stamp onto the Belgian team. He made some controversial selections that he needed to be very strong to do that. He did it, and yeah, as Wout said, it's created a team atmosphere that the riders thrive on. So it's a contributing factor to a great performance to him today. And again, I think it's probably more contributing to. We see it more in Michael Vanthourenhout. Yeah. We wouldn't necessarily have expected him to finish second today, but you know, the fact that he has, and you could see how much that meant to him at the finish as well. And again, I'm sure the whole team atmosphere thing has been pivotal in that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see just how emotional he is. Everything, all the hard work finally pays off as he takes the silver medal. The bronze will go to Mathieu van der Poel. Simon, before we finish, Summarise the weekend. How has it been from your perspective?
Well, I think, you know, finally we've seen a cyclocross course that's proved to be a massive challenge. It's been the hardest one in my memory in the last 20 years. I think, you know, Eschenbach maybe in Switzerland in the mid-90s, 95, 96, but since then we haven't seen anything so hard, and it's been a nice change. It's created some interesting stories. It's created some fantastic racing. We've seen some surprises. The Tom Pidcock, the Mathieu van der Poel, who were expected to be nailed-on favourites for a couple of these races, we didn't see. We've seen some talent for the future coming through. I think the ride of the weekend for me is Hattie Harnden from Great Britain, who finished 4th as a 16-year-old in the under-23 women's race. I think there's huge potential there. I think we've seen diversity in especially in the categories, not the elite men, but the two women's categories and the junior men. Lots of nations represented in the top 10, which I think is very healthy for the sport. We've seen a huge crowd of people. The doom mongers that say that cyclocross is losing popularity since Sven Nys retired in Belgium and Holland, well, you know,
have a look outside.
Come to Valkenburg today and see the crowd here, because it's immense. So I think right now the sport is in a good place. I think the announcement this weekend of a junior women's category in 2020 in Switzerland is massively encouraging, and I think that's just going to continue to grow. So it's been a positive weekend, and I think we've seen some great racing in some very, very difficult and challenging conditions.
Well, Simon, thanks very much for having been with us for the whole of the weekend to give us your insights. Simon Burney, of course, does the preparation, goes out, talks to the riders, finds out about the tyre pressures, walks the course, finds out what that's all about, and I'm sure you'll all agree makes a massive difference. So, Simon, thank you very much for all your insights over the last 2 days.
Well, thanks for having me.
We're getting ready for the podium now as we wait to crown a hat-trick for Wout van Aert. Well, the crowd now celebrating. The beer tents are full. They're just waiting for this final presentation, and the party will continue, I'm sure, well into the next few hours. Well, this is a course that has made these championships so difficult. It has been very tough. It's produced some amazing racing. Thanks for all your messages. It's very much appreciated. We're still getting loads of them in. Sorry if we haven't mentioned you, but we've read everything we can. So thank you very much for getting in touch, getting interactive, because we like to hear from you as the fans who are sitting out there and enjoying the racing. David Terry, thank you for your message. Thanks to Helen Wyman for dropping in and seeing us earlier on and giving us her insights about the course, just as we saw Wout van Aert start to open up his big advantage on everybody else. The podium getting ready then for this final presentation. Belgium have taken the last 3 world titles of these championships, so we go away with Great Britain taking 2 and Belgium taking 3. To tidy up a few places while we wait. Francis Moret 13th for France. Steve Chanel sneaked into the top 10 for France, the French champion. 22 riders managed to finish the race without getting pulled on the 80% rule. Stephen Hyde was 15th. Felipe Orts of Spain was 20th. Simon Zahner of Switzerland 21st, Lars Forster of Switzerland 19th, and Marcel Wildauber 16th place. The rest of the riders were pulled on the 80% rule that Simon was talking about. Thanks, Andy McGrath, for the margins that you've just sent in. I'll just let everyone else know that it's the first time there's been a minute of a winning margin since 1998, and it's the biggest winning margin since 1979, when Albert Zweifel won by 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Thanks, Andy, for that information. Not long now until the podium presentation. Heading now to the podium presentation. And now we're ready for the podium presentation of this year's World Cyclocross Championships. The interesting question will be Mathieu van der Poel, and finding out afterwards just what happened today. Just maybe one of those days. But this is the presentation of the 2018 UCI World Cyclocross Championships. Elite Men, the final race of the weekend. He's just taking it all in.
In third place, the winner of the bronze medal representing the Netherlands, Op de derde plaats, winnaar van de bronzen medaille namens Nederland. Een geweldig applaus voor Mathieu van der Poel.
Mathieu van der Poel, bronze medal. A very disappointed man again. But we've admired the way he's ridden all season. He truly has been an exceptional rider. He just has to take it in again, unfortunately, as bronze medalist. But he's given us a lot of pleasure this season watching the way he's raced. I think this guy is the happiest guy of the weekend. Silver medal. This means so much to him, you can just see it.
Michael van Toerenhout ontvangt de zilveren medaille uit handen van David Lapartien, de voorzitter, de president van de UCI. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the new world champion, the winner of the gold medal, representing Belgium! Dames en heren, de nieuwe wereldkampioen 2018, winnaar van de gouden medaille regenboogtrui, vertegenwoordigt België. Het applaus voor Wout van Aert!
World champion for the third time running, Wout van Aert. He takes the rainbow bands back.
Will receive also the gold medal for the third time in a row. Want de derde of een keer wereldkampioen veldrijder zijn de elite. Allemaal geselecteerd David Lapartien, voorzitter van de Union Cycliste International, die de gouden medaille heeft overhandigd.
Wout van Aert, the winning margin, 2 minutes and 13 seconds on his teammate Michael van Turenhout and 2 minutes 30 on Mathieu van der Poel.
Bruno Bruins, de minister van Sport, heeft de toer uitgereikt aan zijn landgenoot, aan Mathieu van der Poel, en onze Belgische wielervriend Michael van Toerenhout vandaag goed voor de zilveren medaille. En zodanig ook de bloemen uitgereikt door minister van Sport Bruno Bruins aan de grote kampioen uit België, de wereldkampioen Wout van Aert.
And now for the national anthem of Belgium.
Your attention please for the national anthem of Belgium. Dames en heren, mag ik u aandacht vragen voor het Belgisch volkslied, de Brabançonne.
Wout van Aert, now 3 times world champion. There's our podium, Van Aert, Van Turenhout, Van der Poel.
Champagne for our team medalists after this amazing race in Valkenburg today. Champagne for Mathieu, champagne also for the silver medalist Michael van Toerenhout.
Now we get the champagne.
Of course, for the guy in the rainbow jersey, Wout van Aert. En nu de champagne omgeven, de nieuwe wereldkampioen
Michael van Turenhout has to get the gloves off to get this one.
Nogmaals een geweldig applaus voor de nieuwe wereldkampioen 2018 voor Wout van Aert.
Well, certainly Van der Poel and Van Aert have given us thrilling racing all season. They have raced each other incredibly hard. They have dominated the cyclocross scene. And yet again, they give us another story to talk about for a long time. Wout van Aert wins with a huge margin of 2 minutes 13 seconds. And Van der Poel has to go away now and think about how he wins the world title next season. He's dominated everything else. Just on the day that he wanted for the Rainbow Bands, it just didn't happen. Well, as we look across this huge crowd have enjoyed the atmosphere and created the atmosphere. The snow falling a little bit, but it's not too bad. The atmosphere has been warm and enjoyable. We've seen Great Britain take 2 titles, but the last 3 have gone to the Belgians, who have dominated the last 3 races. Thank you to all of you for watching. It's been a pleasure to bring you these World Championships, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye for now.
Uiteraard zien we wellicht elkaar volgend jaar weer terug bij het wereldkampioenschap in het Deense Bogense. Dank ook aan mijn collega Nico de Muid. Ik dank Riemen Horik, ik dank de mensen van Peters Geluidstechniek.